From early on in his life, Bobby wanted to express his creative side. He attended McGill University's engineering program where he developed an interest in musical theatre. Bobby then moved to Toronto in 1995 to work for Bombardier and at the same time created his own theatre company named Markham Thespian Society. Next, Bobby graduated McMaster University with his MBA, creating an outlook he uses in his business to this day.
Making a difference and creating positive change. It's about getting things done and getting rid of everything else that doesn't contribute. It's about encouraging, enabling, and empowering every volunteer. It's about reinforcing core values, articulating vision, and setting people free. Powerful stuff.
His philosophy makes him stand out as a motivational speaker, a career direction he chose after being a brand manager at Kraft Canada. In 2006, Bobby created Ray Allen, training people in leadership and professional development. He's participated in 4 TEDx talks in Canada. Here in the studio is Bobby Umar. Thank you for joining us, Bobby. Now, your work in the field of self-development is quite extensive. You're published, you have nearly 140,000 followers on Twitter. You also worked on the Dove Self-Esteem Fund. Now, what is your perspective on the correlation between the relationship one has with themselves as well as self-esteem?
I think it's a huge relationship. Our self-esteem is a big part of defining how we feel about ourselves and affects our self-confidence, and how we feel about ourselves and how we love ourselves will ultimately project itself and manifest on how we behave with other people, whether it's in our personal lives or our professional lives.
Okay, is there any other way of defining that relationship with self other than the feelings we have about ourselves?
Well, it's not just feelings, it's behaviors, it's actions, it's the entire routine of what we do in our lives, but also you can define it in terms of how you look at your values and your interests and skills, and understanding, how people perceive you. So branding and personal branding is a big part of that as well.
Okay, now, more often than not, when we think of relationships, we're thinking about marriages, we're thinking about romantic relationships, perhaps even professional relationships, but not very often do people think of this critical relationship we should be having with ourselves. Why do you think people ought to work on themselves before they start focusing on others?
Well, the best we can be ultimately makes other people best too. So, if we can actually be amazing people and develop ourselves and be confident, have self-esteem, and feel the support and love of everything around us, it'll ultimately affect us as a parent, as leaders, and as friends.
Okay, now, would you say that there are certain traits which come out from individuals that don't have a healthy self-relationship?
Yeah, there's lots of awkwardness, or they doubt themselves, or they second guess themselves, they apologize a lot. There's all these different, things you can look at when you're having a conversation with somebody to see how they hold themselves up in a conversation, how they behave, what kind of words they use. Low self-esteem manifests itself in many, many ways, from physical to mental to other and socializations.
So what are the spillover effects of those traits?
What do you mean by that? So
professional relationships, for example.
Well, again, the more you behave and act a certain way, it starts to become noticeable. And that's what branding is. The personal brand is, what do people say about that person when they're not in the room? So if you're someone who's always apologizing a lot, everyone will say, oh, that person, they always apologize a lot. I guess they don't feel very good about themselves. So it starts to manifest that brand in other people, and people start to have that feelings about you. And sometimes they'll respond to you in those ways that also makes it worse.
And what about personal relationships?
It's the exact same thing. So if you're acting a certain way, and you'll have a partner that will see these things, well, they'll also react in a certain way, and sometimes it can get worse and can spiral out of control.
Okay. And now, from your experience, what are the best steps to take for somebody wanting to develop a healthier self-relationship?
I think it's really critical for them to do a lot of self-reflection analysis. I think that's doing a deep dive into their personal brand, which includes their values, interests, skills, personality traits. I think they should get feedback from people that they love, from their support network, people that they care about, whether it's their family or friends. And then there's also a lot of online tools you can use to help you assess. Okay.
And last question: are there any activities that a person can use to get in touch with themselves?
Well, aside from a reflection, there's things you can do like, going for long walks, and long walks in the woods are a great way, or finding out what is it you love about nature. Nature's a great connector to ourselves, because we start to see ourselves beyond who we are individually, but also where we fit in the grand scale of the universe. And when we start seeing ourselves in that light, we start to appreciate a little bit more about our beauty and our love for who we are and how we can make a positive impact in the world.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for your insights. You can check him out on Twitter at RayhanBobby or his website at www.rayallen.com. Stay with us. Up next, we have Why Marriages Fail.